Patrick Cook here. So welcome to session number 6 of our discussion of why we create Mandelbulb 3D art. In the last session I was talking about finding the story, and I've been picking on this one particular Mandelbulb graphic to kind of talk around this whole concept of finding and actually telling a story. Now, when I landed on this graphic here, all right, was between sessions 4 and 5, I was playing around with it, and boom, there it is, So, so I said, now what can I do with that? What can I do with that? Well, I can do a lot with it. And I talked about in the last session about how this appears to be some sort of a organic creature that is in a community, and the tentacles are connecting with other creatures and that sort of thing. Okay. Now, so now we were talking about, well, how can we tell this story better? All right. Yeah, there's a story in here, but how can you tell it better? What do you want to tell? Do you want this? You could use lighting, and you could say, look, I want to make this thing. I want to really draw out the creature, and I want to show every detail and every scale. That's okay, because it's your story to tell. If that's what you want to tell, go for it. Or you might also say, look, I want to tell a story. I want to tell a story of a creature that's deep in the dark recesses of whatever, underground, a cave, hasn't seen light for 92,000 years, that sort of thing. That's okay. That's your story. You get to tell your story any way you want. And that's the cool thing about generative art. Once you find the graphic, then you can mold the graphic to tell the story that you want to tell. Now, if you understand the story that you want to tell, you have the tools to manipulate the graphic to go above and beyond the story you want to achieve the story that you want to tell. And sometimes you don't even know what the story is until you play with the knobs. Okay? Look, I found the story. I'm in the process now of telling the story. That's the mode that I'm in now. I found it, found the story. I want to tell the story. I want to tell a little bit better than the way I found it. I want to put this up to min. I want the smallest possible adjustment of my properties that I can when I come down here and I manipulate the scale. You see this? Okay. Now, so what I'm doing here is I'm changing the picture a little bit. All right. So recall what that looks like. I'm going to push this new one back up to this main editor, and that'll overwrite this. Okay. I'm going to push it back to main. All right. So now I've got a new picture. I've got something new. All right, I'm going to make a slight modification right here. Okay. Now, okay. So I have other possibilities for a story. So I can get back to my lighting panel, and I can go into, say, the ambient. Let's see what we can do with the shadowing. Okay, let's bring that down like that. Let's see, let's go. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm seeing whether or not I can improve my storytelling. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to improve the story. Let's get back down here. Let's go back to, I don't know, something like that. Sort of what I had before. Now let's try playing around with this fold here. All right. Okay. Now let's push that back up to main. Let's see what we get. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that I am in the process of tweaking this ever so slightly so that I don't completely blow it away. And I'm trying to see whether or not I've got a story in there and how I can tell the story. Okay? That's not given me any better of a story than what I had. I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to kind of put this fold back to sort of what I had before, something like that. I'll tell you what. Let's slide up. Okay, let's look down. Okay, now let's push that back to main. Now, I don't want to go into excruciating detail as to about how you go about developing your story. All right, because I think you get the point. You have a tool that has, as I discussed in an earlier session, your tool has generated a graphic image based upon formulas and formula combinations and the formula properties. You went through the process of discovery. You accepted, you rejected, and then at some point you land on a graphic, all right, that you say, I can tell a story with that, I think. All right, you found the story. Now what you want to do is you want to go through the process of telling the story, and you're in control of the formula properties, but you don't want to stray too far because you think you got a story there. In this case, some sort of an organic creature that looks alive. All right. So you get into the process of telling the story. Now, you can tell the story with a still graphic. I mean, I can render this out into a still. I can print it, make it digital, put it up online, whatever. I can also run this into an animation. So now with an animation, I could have the creature that kind of morphs and changes and moves around a little bit. Okay. Well, where I'm going with this is that you've got a couple different ways to tell your story. You can tell your story with a still graphic, all right, and let somebody examine it and say, oh, look at the down in the depths there, and that's very interesting. What's going on over here? All right. Or you could animate it. All right. In which case they're seeing this creature apparently seeming to be alive, growing, morphing. All right. You can tell your story with motion, and you can also tell your story with a still video, a still image. Now, you get to decide if you're going to be a still creator or if you're going to be an animator. You get to decide that. And the Mandelbulb3D application does give you the tools to make a really spectacular high definition still graphic. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of applications, software applications out there that will make you pay money to get a high resolution render, still render. Not so with this particular application. My God, the tools that they have given us, which are free. I think that there's very few people that really truly appreciate the tool set that comes along with this. Unlimited render resolutions, limited only by your computer and memory and and the effort and the time you want to put into it. You can have a render that's still render that's so big that you would spend $500 to have it printed and it would look wonderful. All right. The point I'm making is you have the tools and you get to decide how you're going to tell your story. You can tell your story with a still image. You can tell your story with an animation. All right? You can tell your story with a grand, high resolution, large or high definition still, or you can tell your story with a 4K or even an 8K animation, depending upon your hardware and your skill set. All right? Very few limits to what you can do telling your story with the Mandelbulb 3D application. Okay? Now, all right, so let's end that here. All right, and you find the story, you tell the story, you use your tools to aid in how you tell your story. That is a key part of this whole why we create Mandelbulb 3D art. Let's pick this up in the next session where I want to talk about the challenges and why I refer to the challenges as being delicious challenges. All right, join me in session 7. We'll talk about that. Maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't. Let's find out. I'll see you there.